You're listening to a Roddenberry Podcast.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. We'll have more news this evening, but first...
The latest Gene-ology, a Roddenberry Podcast.
Episode 89, Defiance County. Welcome to Mission Log Gene-ology. I'm Earl Green.
And I'm Ashley Thomas.
Each week on Gene-ology, we go through the case files of Gene Roddenberry's early adventures in television writing, putting his old shows and scripts on trial to see if they were guilty of sneaking morals, messages, and meanings to his audience in the form of entertaining stories, something that became his trademark when he went on to create Star Trek.
This week, we take a leisurely drive through Defiance County, yet another specimen of Gene's pantheon of unsold TV pilots that didn't lead to a series.
Before we get to trivia on this week's episode, let me take a brief moment to encourage you to join our Patreon, or follow us on YouTube, or leave a review wherever you're listening to us. You know what? If you want to do all three, nobody's going to be mad about that. Patreon is your gateway to all things Mission Log, including exclusive access to the unedited version of our show and Mission Log, and our private Discord where you can interact with us, your hosts, during scheduled live chats, along with occasional screenings. Screenings with an N. I was editing one of our old shows a while back, and I was like, did I say screamings?
Might be some screamings, too.
You know, this decade... there are occasional screamings as well. You can access all of this for just $1 a month. So head over to patreon.com/missionlog to see what tier works for you and join the conversation.
By the way, reviews do help our shows more than you possibly could imagine. Even if you can't come up with the words for a written review, a 5-star rating really does go a long way to tell the algorithm that you like us, you love us, you want some more of us, and you think that other people might enjoy our 5-star podcast too. We are counting on our loyal genealogists to help us spread the word. And now, this week's trivia.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Since the ghost of TV Sam Houston lingers over my shoulder every day of my life, I am going to be very careful and specific in how I word everything to do with Defiance County. What we have to work with today is a script dated December 8, 1961, labeled Revised Final Draft, and given the episode title of The Powder Man. This was the pilot episode of what Gene hoped would be a series during his stint at Screen Gems, and this leads off the end of our coverage of Gene's freelancing career in the 60s. It's going to be a slightly disjointed stretch of shows, as we are going to be dealing with the last of the one-offs and pilots prior to Gene's creation of The Lieutenant for MGM and NBC. Was Defiance County committed to film? Sources such as Gene's official biography say yes, but they cite no information as to cast or crew. But that just leaves us where we were with The Man from Texas, which we originally said never made it to film. And for the record, Gene's biography, as written by David Alexander, agreed with the assessment that The Man from Texas wasn't filmed. But then later it did turn up as an unsold pilot called Warrior, the Story of Sam Houston, with Gene credited as the writer and creator. So I'm going to sit on the fence with regards to whether Defiance County was filmed. And of course, without film, we have no idea who would have been in it. It is just a little bit of a down-home, small-town rehash of 333 Montgomery, though. Tyson Cooper is a slightly more aw-shucks version of Jake Britton, and I will admit that I'm almost having an easier time imagining DeForest Kelley as this version of the character. That being said, full disclosure, I have no idea if DeForest had anything to do with this pilot. What we do know from Gene's biography is that CBS expressed a strong interest in Defiance County. And that brings us to a significant event in Gene's personal and professional life, a permanent parting of the ways with one of his writing mentors, famed mystery writer Earl Stanley Gardner. Gardner had been advising Gene on writing all the way back to his Robert Wesley days, and had even shared some of his closely guarded mystery writer tricks of the trade with Gene early on, when Gene struggled with maintaining original output of a consistent level of quality. Gardner's own literary output was legendary, and he had already created his own iconic TV lawyer, a character you might have heard of by the name of Perry Mason. But Gardner had also written stories about a wily country lawyer named Doug Selby, and he had begun the process of piloting that character's inroads into TV, also at CBS. And before you know it, Tyson Cooper and Doug Selby were jostling for a coveted primetime pilot slot, pitting Gene against his prolific mentor. Someone with knowledge of both pilot scripts tipped Gardner off that, in that person's opinion, Cooper and Selby as characters were too similar to be a coincidence. Harsh letters were written by lawyers. Gene responded with letters of his own, bristling at being accused of plagiarism, and laced with a prodigious number of F-bombs. Excerpts from this correspondence are reprinted in the book Star Trek Creator, by the way, and they are a read. CBS declined to develop Gardner's Doug Selby series concept any further, while there are repeated indications that Defiance County at least made it to filming the pilot, whose script we will be discussing today, although other sources say it never made it to film. Everyone's attorneys got involved, and a longtime friendship cooled permanently. Neither Gene's Tyson Cooper nor Gardner's Doug Selby ever got near the airwaves, but despite that, both men could lay claim to having created great television for the ages with their other creations. However, according to David Alexander's biography of Gene, he never mended fences with his mentor in the business. Earl Stanley Gardner died in 1970.
The hospital called a few minutes ago. Mr. Jorgensen is dead.
Jesus. The whole town must be talking about it.
I suppose so.
Do we book Middleton for murder now?
No.
A man just died from a bullet in the back. And we're playing games with lie detector tests and waiting in streams.
I'm not playing games, Rip.
Then why don't you go after Middleton? Why not make Middleton take a lie detector test?
We could never trick him into it now.
Then let me work on him. I'll show you how to find that gun.
No.
I don't understand you, Coop. Why are you trying my hands? If I thought you'd rather face the kind of lawyer Ned Bliss can hire instead of the kind of lawyer the Middletons can afford, I'd understand. If I thought you were scared of the Middletons' influence, I'd understand. I wouldn't like it, but I'd understand. But I know you better than that.
Thanks for that much.
I've got a job people of this county expect me to do. And you don't leave me in an alternative now. So I'm going to have a talk with Judge Payne. I'm sorry, Coop. I've got to put myself on record. I don't like the way you're handling this. Not at all.
Prologue. The town of Twin Plains in Defiance County, Ohio is a quiet sort of place. Stuff gets grown here, stuff gets dug out of the earth here, but that's as big as this town gets. The only other big industry is putting the stuff that's been grown or dug out of the earth on train cars bound for other places. It's mid-century Middle America personified. The only places still open for business at 9:30 at night are the local bar and the local coffee shop, which is probably not a coincidence. But other than that, Twin Plains is the very picture of a place that rolls up the sidewalks at 5 o'clock sharp, doesn't roll them out on Sunday at all. Which makes it a very weird place for a sports car to be tearing through the heart of town with the local sheriff in hot pursuit. But the seat of Defiance County is such a sleepy place that it's easy enough for the escaping driver to cut his lights, pull into a driveway, and watch as the sheriff's car keeps going, oblivious to the age-old stunt that's just been pulled. The driver of the sports car waits, pulls out of the driveway, and then goes in the opposite direction of their pursuer. Cut to the two-story home of Tyson Cooper, the prosecuting attorney of Defiance County. Even by 1960 standards, his place is a bit on the old-fashioned side. The sheriff's car goes blasting past, which excites Cooper's Dalmatian dog, Polka Dot, who thinks about chasing the cop car and then decides he'll just give it a good loud woofing instead. Less work that way. Inside, Cooper's housekeeper, Fem Tolliver, is working on dinner while Cooper and his friend Bounty, a big game trapper who makes his living taking predatory animals out of circulation, play a game of cribbage. Friendly insults fly back and forth between Fem and Bounty, but in the end, Bounty knows that if he sticks around Cooper's place long enough, he'll be treated to one less meal than he'd have to cook himself. A phone call interrupts the good-natured banter, Mr. Jorgensen, the owner of Twin Plains' only drugstore, has been found shot in the back, face down in front of his store. Cooper will be needed. He hops into his muddy convertible to race to the scene, and even though nobody asked him to, Polka Dot takes off and gets to the scene of the crime ahead of Cooper. Act 1. In front of Jorgensen's store, the cops are puzzled. Jorgensen's wallet wasn't stolen, and he's still wearing his watch and his ring. Sheriff Judd Ripley, Rip to his friends, and his deputies, Sam and Harvey, are puzzled. Jorgensen is loaded into the ambulance, still alive, but he's lost a lot of blood. From what Rip has been able to piece together, the shooter, whoever it was waiting in the alley for Jorgensen to come out of the shop. Rip comes down on his deputies hard. Find the bullet, or, better yet, find the weapon. We can't have 2 unsolved shootings in one 6-month period. Ripley is getting an earful about that from the locals after the death of a man named Jim McAllister went by without enough evidence to lead to an arrest. Coop heads to his office at the county courthouse and calls his legal secretary at an uncivilized hour, asking her to come into the office to help take statements from witnesses. Nobody actually saw the crime being committed, but 2 witnesses say they did eyeball the person who left the scene, a rich kid named Tony Middleton who tore off down the street in his sports car. Tony's family has wealth and a lot of local political influence on their side, something that is very much on display when Tony is brought in for questioning. Multiple witnesses say they saw Tony climb into his sports car and leave Mitch's Roadhouse last night, and he was in no shape to be behind the wheel of a car. Not so, Tony says. He walked home because he was so shit-faced he couldn't find his own car in the parking lot. Cooper asks if there are any witnesses to back up Tony's claim. At 10 o'clock at night, in this town? Don't make me laugh. And the Middletons were away on a trip, so Tony can't even provide any witnesses to what time he got home. Sheriff Ripley is annoyed, to say the least, and he's already under a lot of pressure to tie this case off. He accuses Tony of driving to Jorgensen's to buy more liquor, being refused service, and then shooting Jorgensen in a rage. Tony says he doesn't even own a gun. And after that, Tony says he's not saying any more until his dad's lawyer gets here. At this, Rip grabs Tony up out of the chair until Cooper intervenes. Take it easy, the kid's still got rights, including the right to not get beaten up by local law enforcement. Phone call from the hospital. Mr. Jorgensen is awake. Cooper races to the hospital to take a statement from the one man who stands a chance of fingering his suspect, but Jorgensen won't positively identify Tony Middleton as the suspect. He swears up and down that it was Harry Bliss, the son of the powder man, who does the demolition work at the local mine. Jorgensen does add one other vital piece of information to the case. As he was locking up and leaving his drugstore, he was carrying a cash box containing $722 to deposit in the bank the next morning. That cash box was not found at the scene. The doctor arrives to speak with Cooper. Despite Jorgensen saying he's going to pull through, he's not. He'll probably be dead in the next 48 hours, and this armed robbery case is about to become a murder case. Act 2. The next morning, Coop arrives at the courthouse to start the day's work, and he's confronted by Ed Richardson. Not Big Ed, but more of an economy-sized Ed, a prominent local citizen lamenting the fact that Tony Middleton's father was about to build a factory in Twin Plains, which would have brought jobs and money to town. Well, that probably won't happen now. Terrible timing for this crime to have taken place. Coop arches an eyebrow at Ed. I'd say it was a terrible thing to happen at any time. But Ed keeps going. Maybe he does think he's Big Ed. The Middletons have done a lot for this town, and a lot for you too, Coop. During the election, Jim Middleton was your biggest booster. He just keeps piling it on. Mr. Middleton said more than once, keep your eye on Ty Cooper. Someday he might well be the state's attorney general. And he's certainly the man to help you get it, Coop. The point is, this is a serious crime, not just the latest in a long line of drunk driving charges Tony Middleton has managed to skate around. Cooper had better be real sure he has a solid case, because the whole town stands to lose if the Middleton family is riled up for no reason. Ed leaves it at that, and Cooper's blood is boiling. In the prosecutor's office, Sheriff Ripley is grimly aware that he's about to be investigating a homicide and not a simple robbery. He asks Cooper if the next move is to indict Tony Middleton. Cooper stuns Rip into silence with a one-word answer. No. The witness statements aren't strong enough. Some of them contradict themselves, let alone each other. And then there's Mr. Jorgensen's final statement, which Cooper is duty-bound to enter into the official record. Any good criminal defense attorney, especially the caliber of lawyers that the Middletons will be able to afford, would tear Cooper's case to shreds. Instead, he wants to question the young man Jorgensen said he saw, Harry Bliss. Rip isn't convinced, and he is scared. He already has one unsolved murder haunting him. His neck is on the block. Cooper has one other instruction for the sheriff. Don't breathe a word about the Jorgensen case. Tell Harry he's being questioned about, the trophy that went missing from the local bowling alley? And that's how it starts out, with Ripley asking Harry Bliss about the missing bowling trophy, until Cooper goes off-roading with the conversation, asking the sheriff if that's a new gun he's wearing on his hip. That's a nice new gun there, Rip. Wouldn't mind having one of those myself. Say, Harry, you ever handled a gun like that one? Harry says no, he's never even had a gun. But the needle on the polygraph says, blip. Cooper keeps asking questions that are now clearly no longer about the trophy. Ever buried anything, Harry? Hidden something in a cellar? What about throwing something in the water, like, say, the river near here? Again, Harry says no, but the needle says, blip. Cooper asks about specific tributaries off the river. Ever thrown anything in this creek? What about that creek? Hey, how about Adams Creek? No. But also, blip. An older man barges into the interrogation room. Ned Bliss, Harry's father, has arrived after hearing that his son was brought in for questioning, and he is red-hot mad about it. Harry apologizes for his father. Sometimes my old man just goes crazy. And that interruption is stressful enough for, everyone in the room, that the test is obviously over. But Ripley and Cooper feel like they got something useful out of the questioning. Mr. Moser, the man handling the polygraph, isn't so sure. If Harry even so much as kicked himself, it'd change his heart rate. But it's obvious that the next stop is Adams Creek. Ripley and Cooper change into their best wading boots and high water pants to search Adams Creek for the gun that Harry Bliss says he didn't have. But their intensive search leads them to a tin can. So much for that theory. Polka Dot tags along, but when Coop shoos him off, he goes upstream to bug Coop's pal Bounty, who's doing a bit of fly fishing in his downtime. Bounty isn't too fond of all the commotion from either Polka Dot or his owner, who he says is scaring off the fish. But Cooper and Ripley aren't finding what they're fishing for either, and they call it a day. When they get back to the courthouse, tragic news: Mr. Jorgensen has died at the hospital. Ripley wonders aloud, now can we book Tony Middleton for murder? But Cooper still says no, and there's no point in subjecting Tony to a polygraph because the stakes are so high now that there's no way the results would be admissible. Ripley suggests that Twin Plains' finest take Tony for a little walk around the block and soften him up to see if he remembers where the murder weapon's been hidden, but Cooper gives a firm no to that idea as well. Rip's had it. Is Cooper afraid of the kind of legal muscle the Middleton family will hire? Is he worried about his future career prospects if he charges Tony with murder? He thinks he knows Coop better than to think it's either of those things, but he's also in strong disagreement with the prosecutor over the handling of this case. Objection. That evening, Cooper is summoned to the office of Judge Payne, the county judge, who questions why Cooper isn't pursuing the prosecution of Tony Middleton. Citing one of the books in Payne's own legal library, Cooper reminds the judge of the concept of reasonable doubt, and there are far too many reasonable doubts to pursue Tony Middleton. He may, however, have a prima facie case on Harry Bliss. And Cooper is fully aware that doing so would look like he's picked a suspect who's too poor to defend himself in court, unlike the Middleton family, who could hire enough legal muscle to drag the case out and bankrupt the county. The judge cautions him, going after Bliss will make it look like Cooper's just picked a patsy, so his case better be rock solid because Cooper's career will be on trial too. Well, thanks for that, Your Honor. Act 3. That night at home, Cooper is busy not sleeping when he hears something outside. It's just Bounty, headed up to Baldwin Canyon to camp out and trap a bear that's been mauling cattle. There's a $50 bounty for it, and in case you can't tell from Bounty's nickname, that's just what he does. But he could do it a lot better if Coop could spare a cup of hot coffee. Cooper turns on the lights, opens the door downstairs. How about coffee and a slice of the blueberry pie that Fem made? and in exchange, Bounty gives Cooper some unsolicited advice on his investigation. If Cooper was looking for a murder weapon, Adams Creek wasn't the wrong place to look, but try looking at the river bottoms where guys used to pan for gold. The bottoms are soft silt, a perfect place to hide something you don't want found. Bounty finishes his coffee and pie and heads off to bear country. At dawn, Cooper heads to the river bottoms to test Bounty's theory. The river bottoms are pretty soft. Cooper gets his foot stuck and almost takes the nasty plunge into some muddy river water. Let's see. Another tin can, someone's old boot, and a .38 caliber revolver. Now that is a successful fishing expedition. At his office at the county courthouse, Cooper's studying a gun when Ripley arrives with an apology at the ready. Cooper's not worried about that. The gun was in Adams Creek, all right, but it was on the other side in the Gilvery Wash mining country, which is where the Blisses live and work. And Coop bets something else is hidden there, too. The cash box from Jorgensen's drugstore containing $722. Ripley is a bit honked off. Why hasn't Cooper mentioned that detail before? But Cooper was still putting the pieces together at the time where Harry Bliss was concerned and didn't want Ripley to do anything rash. In the police lab, Mr. Moser has examined the gun Cooper found and determined that it's an exact match for the bullet that was the beginning of the end for Mr. Jorgensen. But he's found something else interesting about the gun. It was registered to the late Jim McAllister, Ripley's other unsolved murder case. Now that is interesting. Is Defiance County home to a serial killer? The bad news is the gun's been underwater long enough that prints are not recoverable. To seal the case, Cooper needs Ripley and the sheriff's department to find the cash box and find Jorgensen's money. But in the meantime, the time has come to book Harry Bliss for murder. The people of Twin Plains are abuzz with gossip. As Judge Payne predicted, the Whisper Network is alive with accusations that Cooper's been paid off by the Middletons to accuse anyone but their son. Word also quickly reaches the blasting area at the local mine. A man rushes in to inform Ned Bliss that his son has been arrested in the Jorgensen murder case. Ned leaves work immediately, jumps into his truck, and races toward town. At the diner, Cooper and Aggie, his secretary, are having a lunch special when in walks Ned Bliss, seething with rage. He confronts Cooper, who calmly tells him that there is evidence tying Harry to the case, but he cannot tell Ned what it is. He accuses Cooper in front of everyone of booking Harry to protect the Middleton boy. Cooper calmly denies this, and Ned's anger boils over. Don't think you can railroad my Harry. Don't even try it, or as God is my judge, you'll answer to me. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Ned leaves, and the diner buzzes with whispered conversations and glances, while Cooper just wants to eat his burger. In a shaded area near the creek, Ripley and his deputies are searching a literal hole in the ground, a former water well that has been removed and covered with boards. It's fairly close to the Bliss residence and the mine, and they found something, the cash box. Ripley uses a pencil to trip the latch and open it up. There's quite a bit of money inside. The box is closed and latched again and is taken away to be the key piece of evidence. Back at the sheriff's office, the box has been given the once-over. It contains $722 and a lot of fingerprints that are a perfect match for Harry Bliss. Cooper plans to spring this particular trap on Harry in court, but for it to work, no one can breathe a word outside the sheriff's office that the cash box has been found. Back at the mine, Ned Bliss gets a phone call. His son is being escorted into the courtroom. Formal charges are being filed. Ned hangs up. He knows one way he can solve the problem. He gathers some sticks of explosive, some wire, and his tools, stuffs them into a satchel, and leaves. Act 4. Defiance County District Court, Judge Payne presiding. Harry Bliss is offered legal representation, but says he doesn't need a lawyer because he hasn't done anything wrong. The judge gives the young man a very somber look. These are murder charges. You might want to avail yourself of a public defender's services. And Harry concedes that point. The public defender arrives quickly and asks for a short recess to consult with his new client. Outside the courthouse, a truck roars into a parking space, and Ned Bliss, carrying a satchel, heads for the courtroom. A few folks who know him offer sympathetic words, confirming his feeling his son is in there being railroaded. He bursts into the courtroom, causing a buzz, and locks eyes with Cooper. Harry and his public defender press for the trial to commence immediately, since Harry doesn't want to spend any jail time for a continuation of the trial at a later date. Cooper introduces the gun as evidence, and Harry is visibly startled to see it. Ned gets as close to Cooper as he can from the gallery, giving Cooper a glance inside his satchel. The sticks are wired and rigged to a dead man switch Ned holds in his hand. If he lets go of it, no more courthouse. Unless Cooper calls for a recess and has Ripley escort Harry to his office. Cooper tries to call for adjourning for the day, but considering that Harry and his lawyer just moved to avoid any delay in the trial, the best that Judge Payne will grant is a recess, and returns to his chambers. Cooper summons Ripley to have Harry Bliss brought to his office. Ned Bliss waits with Cooper in the prosecutor's office. When Ripley arrives with Harry, Cooper tells the sheriff why he's called for a recess. Even Harry's afraid, accusing his father of losing his mind. Ripley goes to clear everyone out of the courthouse. In Cooper's office, Ned lays out his plan. He walks out of the courthouse with Harry and with Cooper as a hostage. Harry Bliss has taken Ripley's gun. It turns out Harry is plenty comfortable with a revolver in his hand and keeps Cooper cornered. Cooper mentions how at ease Harry seems with a weapon and tries to make his case, not to a jury, not to a judge, but to Ned Bliss. Then he challenges father and son directly. How far do you think you'll get with no money? It takes a lot of money to get far enough away to outrun the law. But Harry says money's not a problem. So Cooper springs his trap, driving the wedge in between Harry and Ned. How much money could Harry possibly have? A few bucks? To survive as fugitives from justice, they'll need hundreds, at least. Harry says he's got it tucked away in the old well near the house. Cooper says, that's right, you do, because you stole it from Mr. Jorgensen when you murdered him. 200 650s, 820s, and a bunch of small bills in a cash box in the well we already know. Ned Bliss stares at his son the killer. He loosens his grip on the satchel. Ripley rushes to take it from him, complete with the dead man switch, before Ned loosens his grip on that too. Cooper keeps making his case to Ned. The gun that killed Jorgensen was stolen from Jim McAllister. Whoever killed one man killed them both. Ned confronts Harry and tells him to drop the gun, and Harry is incredulous. He's being asked to give up his weapon by a man who showed up to blow up the courthouse? Ripley is busy dismantling the bomb while Harry tries to make a break for it. He fires a shot to cover his escape, but he hits his father in the arm. As Ned reels with the blow, Cooper and Ripley tackle Harry and disarm him and call the ambulance for Ned Bliss. Outside the courthouse, Rip's deputies are still keeping everyone outside for their own safety. As Ned is driven away, the emergency is over, and public opinion seems to have swayed back in Cooper's favor. Even Tony Middleton is there to offer his thanks. Later, Cooper and Polka Dot are back at the creek, this time fishing instead of looking for evidence. There's just one minor distraction. Bounty is there too, looking for fish, the way he saw Cooper and Ripley looking for evidence the other day. Cooper just shakes his head. That'll never work. Until Bounty pulls up a beautiful 2-pound fish that he just caught with his bare hands. Coop is astonished. Bounty just points to his fishing creel. This is like the 6th or 7th fish he's caught this way today. Turns out there's even a crazy story behind a lowly fish fry here in Defiance County. The end.
Well done, Earl. You have defied the odds to bring us an excellent recap. So, well done, dude. That was that was very, very well put, very concise. Got all the big parts that we needed, and perfect.
That was definitely a taste of the future, because this has to be a script for an hour show. It has to be. However, yeah. I have a confession to make.
Oh.
This is definitely a first in Gene-ology history. Other than the break after the prologue for the opening credits, and presumably the first commercial break that comes after that, there are no act breaks in this script. I read it, I reread it, I skimmed it, and I was like, I've got to be missing something. I loaded it into my decidedly dumb, non-AI OCR software, had it read the whole script and find the word fade, and it just found that one fade after the prologue.
Wow. Okay.
The script is 77 pages long. And so, again, this has got to be a 1-hour show.
Right.
And so, I felt like it was kind of obvious where we were supposed to have act breaks, but let me be very clear. I don't know where the act breaks would have been, and so those are my act breaks. Those are not Gene's act breaks. I was kind of using my own writer judgment and thinking, where would I cliffhang this to bring people back after the detergent and dog food commercials?
Right.
So, yeah, the placement of the act breaks, that was all me. That was not Gene. A revised final draft it may have been, but like we've said before, a final draft is what shows up on celluloid, not on paper.
Right.
So the cover page says it was work done for Screen Gems, which was the TV division of Columbia Pictures. So this was a TV script. It was not a movie screenplay. There would have been commercial breaks somewhere. Also, Gene's script does not specify that this is the real Defiance County in Ohio, whose county seat is in fact a town called Defiance. But since that's the only Defiance County in the United States, I'm kind of assuming that's where we are here?
I mean, it did sound very, and even in the description, in the beginning of the script, it's like very middle America. The way the town was described in the first few pages, like where we're just getting like the setting and things like that. It is 10 o'clock on a warm Indian summer evening, except for a coffee shop on one corner and a small beer parlor farther down the block. The retail firms along the street are closed. The gentle breeze carries a scent of night-blooming jasmine. The town is quiet and peaceful. Then suddenly we are startled by a sports car careening, screeching around the corner into the scene, passing down the street at high speed. You get that description. There's some description later of like what the town is like, but just hearing that, like, it just felt so much like my hometown, especially like the older parts of my hometown, which now are a little more revitalized. There's actually been a lot of revitalization work done over the past like 15 years to take old Maryville and kind of preserve like the historic buildings, but also make it like a retail, and like there's condos now. There's like a residential establishment there too, which is pretty interesting for like the little parts of old Maryville. Like there's a couple of theaters, and what was a theater is now like a cafe, and they still use like the big silver screen for like special showings. And I went to a wedding reception there once. It's pretty neat. Moral of the story, I felt like this could have taken place in my hometown, like especially 1960s. Like I've seen pictures of what my hometown looked like in the 1960s.
Yeah.
This is very much talked about it being like not like a huge town, but also not small either. Like there's industry and railroads and other things like that. And I was like, yeah, this it sounds a lot like my hometown. So in my brain, Defiance County looks like Maryville, Tennessee.
Makes sense. Yeah, it was definitely middle America. Definitely Midwest. Not either coast, not Chicago, not Dallas. So in the middle between all those four things. Now, the first name, the given name of one of the only women in this story is Femme.
Yeah.
Gene, really? I mean, let's name one of the men Guy and one of the other men Buddy.
Yeah, Buddy, Guy. Or,
let's not forget that old standby, Hugh Man. Hughmann.
Hugh Man.
Femme, really?
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute, really? This is what we're calling her? What is Femme even short for? Is that like about as close as I can think would be like, and I don't even know that I'm saying her name properly. Famke Janssen, who was Jean Grey in the 2000s X-Men movies. That's spelled Famke.
Well, she was also in The Perfect Mate on Next Gen.
That's right.
She imprinted on Captain Picard after Riker passed up a chance to be imprinted on.
That is extremely shocking that Riker would ever pass up a chance to be imprinted on.
well, it would have caused a diplomatic incident, so...
Fair.
But, that was also the episode where, having passed on that opportunity, he was just like, I'll be in holodeck 4. Yes, sir. No questions asked.
But yeah, like I couldn't even think of what that would be short for.
If it weren't for the fact that the technology did not exist yet, I would think this is something that you were going to point search and replace toward whenever you come up with a name. But until then, it's FEM.
Right.
However, I will say this about what Fem was cooking in the kitchen, and I will say this in the style of Dragnet. Fem Tolliver was charged with poisoning Bounty with number 35 green dye. In a moment, the results of that trial.
A quick search on behindthename.com. The name Fem is feminine. It is Dutch or West Frisian, pronounced Fem. This name can be a short form of Euphemia, which is a Dutch name, or a feminine form of Femme, F-E-M-M-E, which is Frisian. Means to use words of good omen.
Not buying it. Not buying it, sorry.
Yeah, nope. Inconclusive. I think your guess, if we'd had a search and replace back then, yes, that would have been, I can't think of a name, so Femme.
Femme, yeah.
Femme, she is not a fatale, but she did try to, well, she didn't even try. She let the guy, he's like, I gotta taste what you're cooking. She's like, all right.
Yeah, she's gonna dye the curtains in the house. That's what she's cooking.
Have fun with that. Good luck, buddy.
Despite my misgivings about her name, I kind of like all the characters in this.
Yeah.
They're very distinct. They're very, it's like, they are alive.
Yeah, I liked that she was very no nonsense. I always enjoy when Gene writes a no nonsense gal.
Yeah. I do have an issue with the fact that both of the no nonsense gals in this screenplay are in helper roles.
Yes, and they are in there for 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, but I will get back to my thoughts on that later.
Sure. It
really is one of the only holes I can knock in this thing, because otherwise it's pretty good. But let's talk about one of the other holes I can knock in it.
Fire away.
A lot of this story hinges on polygraph tests.
Yes, and I took issue with that as well.
So we gotta talk about that. Now, in 1961, it was kind of state-of-the-art, but it isn't that today. And what has come to light since then is that a polygraph test can be defeated by just about anyone who can control their breathing and their heart rate.
Right.
Even in the late 70s, the director of the CIA admitted that in terms of questioning suspected spies, polygraph test was useless.
Right.
Though that didn't stop intelligence agencies or law enforcement from administering polygraph well into the 90s. Though over time, it was less about the accuracy of the test and more of a scare tactic on its own. Oh no, they're going to make me take a lie detector test. It's there to psych out the person and not really determine anything.
Right.
So the window for the polygraph being regarded as a reliable and proven tool for determining if someone was telling the truth in law enforcement terms was kind of short. It's like from the late 30s to the 90s at the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Although some employers still use it now, especially for people they are going to hire. This was actually a plot point in the most recent version of Battlestar Galactica, of all things. Some criminal investigations still use it, although it's really hard to get it admissible in court. So, if it's like this script and the spike on the polygraph is your whole case, up until you find something else, you haven't really got a case.
Yeah.
And I think the script kind of points that out.
Right. And well, what's the point? If you can spoof it, why are you bothering having anybody in here to, take a polygraph?
Yeah. And I really think, I got to thinking about it some more. Maybe this is just a thing that stuck around in TV longer than it stuck around in real life. Possibly TV kept it around in real life longer than it needed to be. Because it's a visual thing you show to tell the audience, oh, blip, someone might be lying.
Right.
And so it's probably been on TV longer than it's been in actual usage. But I also wonder if TV kept it around longer than it was a useful tool for crime detection?
That's a good question.
Now, speaking of crime, I do see huge potential for a spinoff here.
Okay.
Because there is one character in this story who is ahead of the curve way before Cooper. I mean, this character is at the crime scene before Cooper can even show up.
Right.
They know where they need to be. They know what's up. So, I have a pitch for a spinoff show based on Gene's work here. I think this spinoff idea has great potential, and we're going to call it Polka Dot PI.
You know what? Let's get Polka Dot and let's get Wishbone. Bam. You've got your literary crime detective solving case right there.
Yeah, no one's getting away with murder there.
No way. No way. Wishbone and Polka Dot PI. Love it.
So in addition to the reliance on polygraph kind of dating things here, carrying the satchel full of explosives into the courthouse.
Oh my gosh. This was that one episode of Mr. District Attorney all over again.
Yeah,
Like, here, let me just casually smuggle in, like, a armory's worth of weapons in 3 trench coats. Nobody checking bags at the door here. This guy's smuggling in, here's my purse full of bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you, your girl is a queen of smuggling snackies into the movie theater. One time, me and my best buddy back home, she and I got 3 people's worth of Popeye's chicken between 2 purses. It was amazing. Yeah, it was fantastic. We did real good that day. And let me tell you, the lady sitting in the aisle or in the row with us, we were getting ready to watch Watchmen. Like the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie, because we're all fans of the comic. And so we're excited. It's me, my best buddy, and my cousin, and 3 of us are sitting in a row, and we're just eating our Popeye's chicken and sipping our tea, and the lady, like 3 seats down, looks at us and is throwing so much shade. It's like, girl, the lights haven't even gone down yet. The movie's not even started. But she is looking PO'd. And I'm like, seriously, movie snackies are expensive. We brought our Popeye's chicken. We were hungry.
Fire off with the drumstick. It's like, hey.
And we just concluded that she must have been jealous because she didn't think to smuggle Popeye's chicken into the movie theater.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's all it is. But
moral of the story. I ain't getting no bombs in the movie theater, no matter how many purses I got.
Yeah, Ned Bliss is like, all right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. You see this? This is my boom bag.
Yeah, right?
So,
Mr. Boombastic.
Yeah, you can't even... I want to say you could just film this as a period piece, but man, you would have to bring things to a dead stop to explain to the modern audience. No, it used to be part of the societal contract of the American way of life that people just didn't do stuff like this, and so you didn't even check.
Right. It's such a foreign concept to us. Nobody does this stuff. Even if somebody did try to smuggle a bomb into a public building, they check in bags at the door. There's metal detectors. It would be extremely difficult for this to happen in real life.
Yeah, and the thing is, you've had those metal detectors in front of courthouses now for so long that even if you do this as a period piece, you'd have to explain why this is part of the period piece.
Right, exactly. Why are there no metal detectors? Come on,
Yeah, it's like that time I was watching a TV show from the 70s where someone listened in on a whole private phone conversation, from the other phone out in the hall, and they just covered the handset.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't hear them breathing, and they listen to the secret plan unfolding. Or watching that with one of my kids, and I was like, God, they had no privacy back then. And I just looked over at my kid with the cell phone, and I was like, yeah, you think?
Yeah. You had no privacy in a different way.
But yeah, that was just so eyebrow-raising. And then, you just have to remember, there was a time in American history when no one was worried about anyone doing anything like this. And
yeah.
And that's how you get the bliss bomb.
It had never occurred. I really appreciated how Gene made point of, we know the spoiled rich kid. It looks a lot like he did it, but we also think it might have been the poor man's son.
Yeah.
And gosh, because this powerful, this spoiled rich kid's daddy might be able to do you a favor if you don't bring him to task and you bring this poor kid instead. The optics aren't gonna be good.
Yeah, I've got thoughts on this that stretch from discussion through the wrap. So
all right, well,
there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah.
In between, you just have to get over the bliss bomb.
You have to get over the bliss bomb. But I think my observation about that, Earl, is just that I didn't expect that from a 1961 script.
I have lots of thoughts on this one. I've got casting suggestions, I've got things it reminded me of, and I've just got a lot of love for this script. I'm going to jump way ahead in my notes and say that this, alongside the Joan Crawford pilot script, feels like Gene's graduate thesis of crime drama.
Yeah. Like, you could have sold this as like an evening block.
Yeah. The story is plausible.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes suddenly get ratcheted up really high, and yet you are on board with everyone's motivations.
Yeah.
It's easy to sympathize with nearly everyone, and I say that with hesitation because there is a murderer in the mix.
Right.
This feels like, how did this not make it to or past the pilot? Because I want to see more of this show.
Please and thank you. The reaction my dad had when I showed him Sam Houston. Was that it? Yeah, that was it. Well, I want to see more. Yeah, me too, Dad. Sorry. We out of luck. Because
welcome to our job. It's frustration.
This could have been really, really cool, and I would love to know who you cast because I didn't even think about that. So, who makes your casting?
I have a hard time getting away from DeForest Kelley as Tyson Cooper. Now that would have been 2 legal drama pilots in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily think that's who it was. I will tell you this, Ned Bliss, and maybe this is because we only recently watched this Have Gun Will Travel episode that he was in, Lon Chaney Jr. as Ned Bliss.
Ooh, yes, especially in the way that he played that character in that one episode of Have Gun. Yes, please. Let's go.
Yeah, because we need to be scared of this guy at some point.
Yeah, like somebody who can do, I'm gonna mess you up, but also like, I'm a dad who cares about my kid. Yeah,
and I think Chaney could have pulled that off. And, part of me wants to ask, wow, Lon Chaney Jr. is such a big name. Could they have gotten him for, well, they got him for Have Gun.
Yeah.
And they got him for Have Gun more than once. So I think he would definitely have been gettable for the pilot for Defiance County.
Yeah, that I would definitely watch Lon Chaney Jr.
This is going to sound weird.
Okay.
Sheriff Ripley, I'm almost seeing it as like the sheriff from the show Eureka.
Yes.
Now, way too early for that guy to be on television or, exist as human being, maybe. I love Eureka. Incredibly underrated show.
Yeah. Great show.
Yeah. And I hate to pigeonhole that actor.
Colin Ferguson, not Craig Ferguson.
Colin Ferguson as sheriff or deputy anything, just because he's been that in that one show.
Right.
But for some reason, my brain is like, okay, I need a sheriff here. Boom. He just pops up unbidden.
Yeah. No, I could roll with that. So who's your Colin Ferguson type for that era?
I don't know. Maybe Greg Palmer? Maybe Sam Houston?
Greg Palmer could do it. I mean, he did play the sheriff in that episode of Have Gun.
Now he's a worthless sheriff. But...
Yeah, he was a poopy sheriff in that one, but yeah. Gosh.
As for Bounty, this is going to sound crazy. I see like maybe post Have Gun Richard Boone doing Gene a solid and doing a guest role.
Okay.
Except that I'm almost picturing Richard Boone as Heck Ramsey from the 70s, and way too soon for that.
Sure.
But really my big casting thing that I locked in on was Lon Chaney Jr. should be Ned Bliss. Because Ned is doing very terrifying things. We should be terrified of him.
Ooh, who are we playing for young Harry?
I almost want to drop in like one of the brothers from Dr. Christian.
Yeah, I could, yeah.
But, take your pick from those guys. Could also be Tony Middleton. Mr. Jorgensen, I would kind of picture as, and again, way out of time. I'm jumping all over, future and past here. Mr. Jorgensen, I picture as the little old man from Twin Peaks who wants to offer you a piece of gum.
Okay.
That gum you like is coming back in style. That guy. And I forget that actor's name, but
sure.
That's who my brain plugged in. I just feel like this would have been a better fit for DeForest Kelley than 333 Montgomery.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because I hate to say it, because this is something that's been said to my face about me before. Okay. But DeForest Kelley is from Atlanta, and, there's the old saying that you could take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. Mm-hmm. This just feels like he would have fit into this so well.
Yeah, even though this is Ohio, middle America kind of thing, like, he's really got, like, this felt, and maybe it's because it felt like my hometown to me. Yeah. It felt like there should be a little bit of twang in the speaking. And let me be clear, because we live in a society that if you hear culturally, if you hear somebody with a Southern accent, assumptions are made that person is dumb and undereducated and may or may not have all their teeth and may not wear shoes, which obviously none of those things are true. I mean, it's a stereotype, and stereotypes are not okay, in particular negative ones. When I was in undergrad, I had, as a lit major, I had to take history of the English language, which was really difficult. It was the hardest class, probably the hardest class I took for my undergraduate degree. Now, the professor that taught it, brilliant guy, Dr. Sam Overstreet, linguistic genius, brilliant professor, incredibly kind as well. Dr. Overstreet was from Louisville, Kentucky. Now, to hear Dr. Overstreet speak, you might not know it. He had like a big, booming, deep voice, but it was also very gentle. But I didn't detect much of a twang. I might now if I listened closely, because I don't live in a place that has tons of twang, unless you're actually from North Carolina, which nobody's from Charlotte. Fun fact. But the one thing that he said in that class that really stuck with me, he said two things that really stuck with me, and they're related. Number one is there is no such thing as proper English, because English is regional. And so what we consider, quote unquote, English, like somebody speaking without any kind of accent, is kind of Midwestern, but at the same time, they still say things like boat and lake and things like that. So there's no such thing as proper English, because English is regional. And so therefore, don't be ashamed of your home talk.
Yeah. And this is not a uniquely American thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is still debate raging after decades in the UK about received pronunciation, also known as the Queen's English or BBC English, which was a completely made-up accent that the upper-class folk came up with to differentiate themselves from the hoi polloi. So they made up this accent, they taught it to their kids taught it to their kids, and then after a while it's like, this is proper English. And it's like, no, it's completely invented.
This is the Queen's English. Well, yeah, you invented it to sound pretentious.
Yeah.
That's literally why British accents sound like they do.
Yeah, it just feels like twang would be at home here. Like this is Mr. Down Home District Attorney. It's Mr. DHDA.
Yeah. And again, there is no shame in having some twang in your voice. None at all. But for this time, like if you heard twang, well, you're either watching Andy Griffith or, I don't know when the Beverly Hillbillies came out, but yeah.
Put a pin in that. That is going to come up.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Now, that being said, all of this casting that we're talking about, we're just guessing.
Yeah.
If this got filmed, and we're not even sure it got filmed, we have no idea who was in this or could have been in this. We wish we knew.
Right.
It seems like the casting of Tyson Cooper especially either flies or fails.
Right.
The whole show. I turned to our old friend, the Vincent Terrace book, the Encyclopedia of Unaired Television Pilots, 1945 through 2018, and found no mention of Defiance County in there. But that's okay, because to be fair, he missed a few other things we've talked about too. I love that the messages that are here, and boy are they here, they are woven into the narrative. They're coming out of the mouths of the characters in the right place at the right time on the right occasion. That power and privilege do not make you immune to the law.
Yeah.
Your prominence as a campaign donor should not buy you a get-out-of-jail-free card. There's also a hint of a message, and I feel like this is definitely informed by things Gene saw as a police officer, about how the poor and the disadvantaged are systemically targeted by the machinery of law enforcement because of their inability financially to defend themselves. That speaks to me really loud here in 2026.
Yeah. Yes, I love how well this script nuances the ability to defend oneself in court. And okay, well, you can't afford an attorney. One will be provided for you from the best available. Public attorney, that's hard. It's a hard job. I don't envy anyone that does that job. So,
and they even have the judge point out the advantages and disadvantages of being either attorney on either side. Right.
That was something I had never before considered. Again, I don't watch legal dramas, generally speaking. I guess unless you want to count She-Hulk or the legal stuff that we've read or watched for Gene-ology. But this was a really neat way to nuance that position for the audience who may or may not have experience with the legal system.
Yeah.
It's not just a simple matter of let's look at what the law says and did somebody break it or not, but it's a matter of one person is effectively a salesman, and then of course there is the court of public opinion.
And that is very much on display throughout the script, because we keep cutting away to these little gossip scenes in the diner or the Greasy Spoon or whatever. Yeah. And we're kind of taking the temperature of the town. Another writer I could think of who uses that very effectively is Russell T. Davies. He has used that repeatedly in his time as showrunner of Doctor Who, kind of using just these little snippets of what's on TV news to kind of really deliver a lot of information in a very short time.
Sure.
And also kind of give you the temperature of the room. The one hole that I can poke in this is that it sets a really unfortunate precedence that all the women in Defiance County seem to be destined for helper roles.
Yeah.
So you've got Cooper's housekeeper, you've got Cooper's secretary, and then you've got the gossipy ladies at the diner. Now, okay, maybe that's not particularly helpful. They're not in helper roles. Well,
and then also like the witnesses they bring in. You have they're grouped as 3 women, 40s and 50s, and you have a particular image in your head of what that is like, and you're not given any further nuance. Whereas the other 2 witnesses, one is like a mechanic and he's wearing this and blah blah blah. And the other guy is this guy, and he's dressed like this, and blah, blah, blah. And but the description you get of the three women who are witnesses who say at the beginning of the episode that, oh, yeah, it was definitely that dude. Definitely Tony Middleton, because we saw his car and blah, blah, blah. But they did not actually see him. But let's see. Let me see if I can find that real quick, because that was something that registered with me.
Yeah, they described the men, but not the women. Like, okay, it's important to know what the social strata is that these men walk in, but the women, it's not important.
Not important. Because, you can imagine in 1961, what did women in their 40s and 50s look like? Well, they're your aunt so-and-so who, they're not given an identity beyond that. Okay, yeah. Get it in the outer office are three women, Mrs. Crowell, Mrs. Gladden, and Mrs. Drexel. They're all Mrs.'s, late 40s to late 50s, and that's it. Larry Hawkins wearing grease-stained coveralls, late 30s. Mr. Simpson about 60. Well, I mean, they say he's about 60, so. The way the women talk, I can hear my mother talking like this. Young Middleton it was. He came roaring down the street like a madman, just the way he was driving when he killed that Franklin dog. Mrs. Drexel says, I was just crossing the Cedar Avenue when he came rushing around the corner. Had to leap for my life. And Mrs. Crowell, he must have been driving 70 miles an hour and on the wrong side of the street at that. Like, oh my gosh. This is like my mother and her two sisters. This is the image in my head. It's like my mama and her two sisters from like 20 years ago. But, it just, that's it. That's all you get from these women who are speaking in hyperbole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is, it makes you wonder, is this the template for all the roles that women can expect to get in this series, if it goes to series? You just get to be a wisecracking maid who dyes Bounty's tongue green like he's been mainlining green apple slushes from Sonic for a week?
Hey, maybe.
On the other hand, there may have been some sort of forward planning document that Gene had either submitted to Screen Gems or for his own reference that may have laid out future storylines that balance things out a bit better, but nothing like that has turned up in the archive. So all we've got is this script.
Right.
And I wish there was something to say that the ratio of this kind of thing was going to get better over time once we're past the pilot, because everything else about this on paper is awesome.
Yeah, agree. I was surprised by, because I mentioned in the VAM that I had a little trouble getting into this one, and not the fault of the script. Some of it is that I was sleepy, but also like, it takes me a while to wrap my brain around all the scene settings and stuff. And so it took me a minute to get into, a couple reads just to get into, okay, what is actually happening in this story? Because I do better with action versus description. So anyway, that being said, this was a really unexpected crime drama. And when I read it was Defiance County, is like, is this like someplace out in the sticks? Like, I was expecting like a Western or whatever. Was surprised when it was this is a modern modern day. Oh, here comes a car. Okay, well, I guess we're not in have gun will travel era anymore. We have zoomed forward quite literally in our car. So yeah, but this was great. And like aside from the, we've already mentioned our quibbles with the polygraph test and the kind of the flat characterization of women, I think this is really something.
It had so much potential, and the potential is kind of what I'm choosing as my takeaway from this. If this made it to film, boy, I hope it turns up. I would love to see it. Yeah,
because I would love to see, one, just who are we casting? Because that's fun. But two, what was in the script that maybe didn't carry over to TV, or how is it reinterpreted for TV? Because as we have learned, we can have scripts for something. They can say final draft. That may not be what actually gets, past the editing room.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just had another casting idea before we go.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Okay, as Sheriff Ripley.
Uh-huh.
Jason Evers.
Yes, I'll take it. Yep. And let's be real. Anytime I hear Ripley, my brain goes Ellen Ripley. And so I'm imagining Sigourney Weaver reading this. Yes, I know that it's a man in the script. I don't care. It's Sigourney Weaver. All right.
Now leaving Defiance County. Ashley, what do you think?
This is yet another one of those. I'm not sure how this didn't get picked up.
Yeah.
We keep talking about this had to be an hour-long show. How common was the hour-long show back in the olden days?
It was starting to come into vogue around this time. And as we spend a couple of months going through Gene's freelance files, we're going to run into more hour shows like The Naked City and Dr. Kildare, Target the Corruptors. It was becoming more of a thing, and I think part of that is cost. It's like, we built these sets, we hired these actors. Shouldn't we have them do something for an hour instead of half an hour? And we can sell more ads for detergent and dog food? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that played into it, but I'm sure the writers didn't disagree with it because it was like, finally, I can let this thing breathe outside of the half-hour box. Because the half-hour box is really only about 23 minutes long. And this finally gives enough room to let a story breathe, and this one did so gloriously. But it was also amazing at integrating its messaging into the story. It felt organic, like these are things these characters would naturally say in these situations. This is not the writer speaking to the audience and breaking the fourth wall. And the funny thing is, in hindsight, the messages seem really quaint. That no one is above the law. That proximity to money and to power does not buy anyone out of adhering to the moral code of the society they live in. In the context of 61, it all seems on the nose. Hey, Gene, everyone knows this stuff. And yet, for every story ever told by Gene or anyone else that has to repeat these virtues, here we are in 2026 having to remind people that no, really, no one should be above the law. Sometimes you got to be on the nose for a reason. But if we're looking for messages, boy, here is one that speaks to me right now. One line in particular in the after-hours confab between Cooper and Judge Payne that really feels like Gene is sending yet another telegram to 2026. The judge says, "Put the wrong man in the county prosecutor's office for 1 week, and the community might never recover from the harm that would be done."
That line really, yeah, about that.
Yeah, I mean, let that sit with you for a minute. Make that any leadership role. Make that, hypothetically speaking, of course, because we're just talking about old TV shows here, as we are wont to do. Any elected position, but especially a high elected official of importance. It's so simple. It's so common sense. But here again, Gene is speaking directly to us in the future, and it would be great if we would start listening. Because instead, we're all tuning into FAFO FM, which is all F around find out all the time, and the hits just keep on coming. A lot of people point out that Star Trek showed us a better future, but didn't leave a step-by-step guide on how to reach that future. Okay, I understand that criticism, but it seems to me like that in so many of his scripts before Star Trek, Gene is leaving us a comprehensive list of things not to do if we want to see that future. And not enough people pay attention to that. And it feels like that's the mission statement of this podcast. Because sometimes, like here, the step-by-step guide to the future is, well, you can't keep doing that crap.
No. Earl, I know you and I, we both have acute onset completionist tendencies. And so doing a show like Gene-ology is really appealing to both of us because we're getting to look at not just, we have watched a metric ton of Star Trek. We have watched all of Star Trek. But getting this stuff that Gene did before Star Trek and leading up to that, like, I love sitting, like, if I like a musician, I love sitting with their full discography. And I love to start at the beginning because I love to see how they progress as a musician, as an artist. I love to do the same thing with an actor or a director. And now that I'm doing this with a TV writer, you can see the common thread of let's treat everybody with justice. Let's treat everyone with equity. Racism is bad. All of these things that we get in Star Trek, here they are right here. They're always here. They have always been here. And the thing with these shows is that because they're not set in the future, for the most part, we are getting maybe that more tangible thing of how do we get to that Star Trek future?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a great example, not only of, hey, look, we have a prosecutor who is, guy point blank says to him, hey, so-and-so really helped you out. It'd be really good of you not to prosecute his boy for murder. And the guy's like, I need to do what the law requires.
Yeah, or in Obi-Wan E's, that's, I will do what I must.
Yeah, I'll do what I must. Atticus Finch, do your duty. I really loved that he showed somebody with power resisting manipulation. How rarely do people with power resist manipulation? People with power of any kind.
And now it all seems so quaint.
I know. I've seen memes before, and it's interesting because I see people on both sides of the aisle share them, is that we need to make sure our Congress people wear suits like NASCAR racers do. And
with their sponsors.
You can see who their sponsors are. And I think it's very funny that people on both sides of the aisle in my circle tend to share those memes. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you're so close.
You're almost there. You're almost there. Because fun fact, I think everyone, we need to know who's funding these campaigns, who is scratching these guys' backs, But here you have someone with power saying, I must do my duty first. I must do what is required of me. I must follow the law. And no one's above it. I was like, yeah, let's keep hammering that home. Because as quaint and simple as that sounds, we still ain't getting it.
I have no idea how this did not go to series, because I feel like the groundwork was laid here for something that could have run for a year or two. I think there was more potential life in Cooper than there was in Pitcairn. But hey, you know what? Due to this show's rural setting, we still could have gotten a guest shot from Sam the Horse. He still could have landed.
Yeah, we could have still gotten Sam on here. There are lots of farms mentioned in this particular script.
I think that maybe this could have gone on the air, ran for a year or two, and left the air again, and plenty of time for Star Trek and maybe even Lieutenant to happen, as they did. Yeah. But that would mean the show leaving the air kind of on its own terms, and not as a result of the rural purge of the late 60s and early 70s that moved the Western firmly from the mainstream into a niche that would be explored less and less over time. The rural purge, and literally there's a Wikipedia article about this.
I have never heard this term before, so would you like to elaborate for our listening audience who may not have heard it either?
Okay, it's a programming strategy that hit all three of the networks at the same time back when there were only three. But it took out not only Westerns, but shows like Green Acres and the Beverly Hillbillies. And so, a setting like what you see for Defiance County, this might not have survived the Rural Purge either if it had gone to series. But that may be why it didn't get the green light in the first place, because the build-up to the Rural Purge was the 60s writ large. It was more awareness of and more sympathy with social strife, the civil rights movement, and so on. And all the Westerns, all the country-based shows, they had loyal but older and kept getting older audiences. Because what these shows were providing was comfortable distance from the social issues that were spreading outward from the major population centers. But those issues were never truly confined to those places, but shows like the Beverly Hillbillies let you imagine that they were. And so that also meant that these shows were relentlessly white, and basically they were out of touch. They were socially irrelevant. And not representative of the viewing audience or the issues they were facing. And at that time in history, younger viewers, particularly those in the young couples starting a family age bracket, they were seen as having the vast majority of the spending power the advertisers wanted access to. So the down-home country shows had to go because the young folks were not watching them. So that's the one drawback I can think to this show having gotten a series order, is it wouldn't have had a long life.
Gotcha.
Good news is Gene was going to be on the cutting edge of devising something that would manage to outrun the Rural Purge at warp speed, but we'll tell that story later. What messages did you land on here, assuming I didn't just steal the really good message?
No. Yeah, I think, again, the theme of nobody's above the law. Always good, always good. Can't say it enough because we keep not hearing it. But I also just... I really appreciated the nuance given here, because it would be really easy to set this up as an, oh, that poor boy, you got the rich man's son versus the poor man's son. It would be really easy to set up that dynamic, and we're nuancing, hey, yeah, rich man's son, he's a jerk, and he does not use his power or privilege for good. Like, he seems to be a ne'er-do-well. But that doesn't mean he's guilty. Even if...
Yeah, it doesn't make him a murderer.
It doesn't make him a murderer. And so another appearance of a common theme that we keep seeing in Gene's work of, just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they did the crime you want to accuse them of. Which, again, this is the third time we're going to reference Trial at Table Rock, because that's literally what happened in Trial at Table Rock. Yeah. Yes. So I appreciate the nuance of all of that. And I really like how, from the stuff from the 60s, you tend to expect maybe a simpler plot or a simpler script. And I think we got something that was really meaty, and I really enjoyed that. So, we've been talking about how some of Gene's scripts have felt like they're straining in that 30-minute sausage wrap. Yeah. And it feels like there's a whole meal in there waiting to happen. And here we got it, and it was delicious. Yeah, and we keep saying, I don't know why this wasn't picked up. This might have been dangerously close to, hey, racism is really bad and you shouldn't do it. You could work in a lot of racism is bad stories with Sam Houston. This, because we're very white middle America with this, the room for controversy is not as high with this one. So, but that rural purge argument, I think, makes a lot of sense, Earl. That we're moving away from that with the network.
Special thanks to the Roddenberry Repertory Players. Our cast this week featured Alexander Mitchell as Cooper, Duncan Fraser as Sheriff Ripley, and Holly Amos as Aggie. Gene-ology is meant to be entertaining and informative, but it's also just the beginning of an ongoing conversation about the works of Gene Roddenberry. Drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com and join us on Facebook at missionlogpod. And please remember, your comments could be used on future installments of Gene-ology. If you have any material that might be of interest to us that isn't already in the Roddenberry archive, drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and Missionlog Gene-ology is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment.
On the next Gene-ology, APO 923. Special thanks to consulting producers Matt Esposito, Tom Kozak, Mike Richards, Mike Schabel, and Paul Shadwell.
We'll be back next week with more of your favorite programs. This concludes our broadcast day.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.